Sorry.
What's your first and last name?
Mary Ann Richardson. Ask me this.
What's your year of birth?
September 14th, 1942.
Where did you live between 1945 and 1989?
Montgomery, Alabama, Washington, D.C., Turkey, Kansas City, Mobile, Tallahassee, and Pensacola. Oh, and Tuscaloosa.
Oh. What was the first time you ever you remember hearing about the conflict between the Soviet Union and the U.S.?
When I was in the 5th grade in Washington, we used to have regular drills where we would have to get down on our hands and knees and get under our desks to prepare for a bomb.
Cool. What does the term Cold War mean to you?
Well, now it means that the ongoing non-threatening combat between Russia and the United States, but I'm not sure as a student I ever realized what that term meant.
What do you remember seeing or reading in the news about the Cold War or conflict between the USSR and the United States?
There was constantly news about us having ballistic missiles and Russia having ICBMs, and whose rockets could go the farthest and which cities in the United States might be bombed if Russia decided to bomb us.
What books, movies, cartoons, or posters did you see that villainized either country, capitalist, communist, or dealt with the Cold War?
I remember lots of movies and TV. I can't remember names. That Americans were good guys and the Russians were the bad guys. Well, one of them was the Hunt for Red October was about a Russian submarine and an American submarine. I do remember that one. But there were lots of things on TV, especially about the Russians being bad guys.
How did they shape your impressions at that time?
Well, we were all made to believe that the Russians were bad people, and not the people themselves, but the government.
What were you taught in school and at home about the conflict?
Well, as I just said, that we were the good guys and they were the bad guys, and that we were always trying to build up our bomb inventory, and they were always trying to build up those. It was like, who could build the bigger bomb?
What did your school and family teach about nuclear threats and nuclear war?
Well, I already said, like in the 5th grade, I especially remember, having to get under the desk. All our history books, obviously the books that were written, the textbooks that were written at the time, made the Russian government be the bad guys, and we were the good guys.
What were you or any of your family members? Ever afraid that there would be a hot war or nuclear war between the two countries?
Yeah, I think there were several times, especially during the Bay of Pigs, when the Russians started to bring. No, I'm getting things mixed up. That wasn't Bay of Pigs. The standoff between Kennedy and Khrushchev when Khrushchev was trying to bring ICBMs into Cuba. I was a sophomore in college at the time, or maybe I was a junior, I can't remember, but my friend and I were going to join the Air Force right away so we could try to be pilots because we wanted to protect us against the Cubans, but Kennedy made Khrushchev back off, and they took their bombs out of Cuba.
When did you feel that way?
Well, as I said, during the Cuban crisis, especially. And then there was another time when we had a spy plane called the U-2, and it was shot down over Russia, and Gary Powers, I think, was the pilot of the plane, and the Russians kept him, and there was a huge mess at that time, and we thought we would go to war, but luckily it was solved diplomatically.
If yes, did you do anything to prepare or get ready for it?
Well, as I said with the first incident, when during the Cuban crisis, my friend Sally and I we were going to sign up right away so we could go into the military and beef up our military, but it passed, and so we did it, and we both graduated from FSU.
What aspects of the space race or competition to explore space do you remember?
Well, I can definitely remember in 1958, I was a junior at Hogan High School in Kansas City, and we were in history class, and they came over the intercom and said that the Russians had shot a rocket into the sky. They called it Sputnik. And President Kennedy, no, it wasn't President Kennedy, but when President Kennedy was elected, he said, that we were going to bypass the Russians and put a man on the moon. But I definitely remember the day that the Sputnik was shot into space.
Was space race a phrase that you remember using at the time?
No.
What did it mean to you?
Well, I don't remember them using that particular phrase.
Can you think of any specific examples of rivalry between the U.S. and USSR and other areas of life, such as sports?
Well, yeah, I can't remember the years. I think it was 1980, but I'm not sure. The Olympics were supposed to be held in Moscow, and the whole American contingency backed out and didn't go to the Olympics that year because of something that had been done in the Russian government. We were afraid our athletes wouldn't be safe.
Do you remember the Berlin Wall coming down?
Mm-hmm.
How did it make you feel?
Oh, it was a wonderful feeling because your grandpa, was in France during the Berlin crisis, which is when the wall went up. And the Berlin Wall separated East Germany from West Germany, and West Germany was all free people, and East Germany were all communists. And so it made us feel really sad that all these people were, were kind of imprisoned on the east side and couldn't go. I mean, they couldn't travel into the west to go shopping, or, they couldn't get across at all. So it made all of us feel sad.
How have your feelings about that era changed since 1989 and the Berlin Wall coming down?
Well, for a long time under Gorbachev and I guess Yeltsin, diplomatic relations between the United States and Russia were really pretty good. But now that Putin's in office, he's gotten more militaristic, and I mean, I think a lot of people are more are afraid that there's going to be conflict between the United States and Russia again.
What lessons should students today take away from the Cold War?
Well, I guess the realization that as bad as things are, that situations can be solved diplomatically without going to war. I mean, all the times that Khrushchev and Stalin threatened to bomb the United States, it never happened because men were able to sit down at a table and talk about it. So I guess the most important thing students can learn is that diplomacy works.
Were you ever scared?
One time, I remember being scared. I lived in Turkey, and I was sent back to the United States to boarding school. And my mother and dad were still in Turkey, and there was conflict in the Suez Canal, and the Russians got involved. And because the Suez Canal was so close to Turkey, I was worried about their safety.
Have you ever been to Russia?
No, I would love to see Russia because it's so beautiful, and there are so many wonderful museums and beautiful art, but I haven't been, and I probably would never go now that the situation is more volatile.
Wow.
Yep.